Hello and welcome back. I am here with my delightful friend Tracy,
I'm here with my wonderful friend Amber.
and this is the Road to Valon. And today's episode is on Lanfear, and not the 90s power metal band. I'm talking about one of the most cunning, and by cunning I mean ridiculous, villains ever written by a man in fantasy.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. I'm really glad that we're doing this because I feel like we do spend a lot of time. Like anytime Lanfear comes up, it's like I just don't
Yeah,
see her the
side eye,
same
side
way.
eye.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so I'm just gonna kind of like haul out statistically. Most readers for fantasy sci-fi novels are considered to be men. And so I can understand from that perspective, perhaps writing a really hot character, but like the way that she's written, she's so flat to me. She's so flat.
One
Flat.
dimensional.
Yes. I'm beautiful. Do what I want.
That
Ta-da!
sums it up, ladies and gentlemen. And catch us next week. We are.
Shortest episode ever.
No, it's hard. It's hard because I
It
understand
is.
that there is. She's almost comedic in a way without trying to be funny. Like, to me, when I read her character, it's so over the top that I
Mm-hmm.
mostly just kind of laugh and roll my eyes.
Hard. Hard. I
Hard,
roll my eyes
hard.
hard.
I don't know. I don't know. I would like to be open to seeing things from a different point of view. So, people that are with us today,
Absolutely. I'm
feel
with
free to
you.
tell me how wrong I am.
I'm not going to be one of those people because I feel like I sit on the side of how, like, the things that you've kind of pointed out about her in some ways have, like, really opened up how I see her too. And it doesn't, I mean, I think we're also kind of like living through a social period where an older woman going after a young man this hard is not necessarily seen as
As
flattering.
cute and quirky as it was
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah. Yeah. Like now it's like, oh, okay. All right. That's happening. I'm going to sit here and feel real uncomfortable. And
I
I think
will.
that those are good things to recognize, though. And I think it's something that can help shape literature in a way that reflects societal changes and adaptations. And I think recognizing those things has power in a way.
Hear, hear. I will
Yep.
say, though, I'm not going to talk all negative about this character
Right.
because I think that her origin story is one of the most fascinating of all of the
Yes.
Forsaken. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
she has
agree.
a big, big backstory and a
Big.
huge monumental moment within the history of this landscape. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on the
Yeah.
flip side of that, I do get a little bit of a like Adam and Eve vibe where it is the woman who is curious, wants the knowledge, wants
Ooh.
something,
Ooh.
eats the apple, and then original sin, everything's messed up, it's all your fault. Lady, you are the problem.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. That whole
Yeah.
thing. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I hadn't ever really seen it that way before, but it feels so obvious now that you've said it.
Yeah. I do think though, like despite that similarity, and I don't know if that's what Robert Jordan was going for or if it's just my own background kind of
Yeah.
clouding my opinion or association, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But with her beginning, so Mirren Aranel, daughter of the night, she's claiming her own name because, girl power.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Why not?
And
Get it.
yeah, she was not famous and not well known, but she was respected by her colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And during the Age of Legends, Mirren was a researcher at the Collam
Mm-hmm.
Daan in Vassain.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a university Fun fact, I didn't realize this until I was digging in a little bit, is that she actually worked with Masana at that time. And
Mm.
she was an instructor of students at the same university before, she gets deemed unsuited for research and gets kicked. But
Mm-hmm.
it's another Forsaken. We did cover her already. Or no, we didn't cover her already, but maybe we will at some
Maybe
point.
we will. I didn't know
But
that either.
yeah, so she's out there searching for an alternative source of Saidin and Saidar.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, she's going for that forbidden apple in the forbidden garden, and she just
Mm-hmm.
can't help herself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, she's frustrated in so many ways too. Like in descriptions of her, she is described as being as strong in the one power as a woman could be. She is capped out, and it still keeps her less strong than the men around her who can channel. Like, there are still men who can channel more than she can because they can tap Sidene, I guess. Like, there's an unevenness to it for her. And she's like, there has to be a way that I can put myself not just on even footing, but above these people who
Hmm.
can channel more than I can. And her research leads her to bad, bad, bad thing. Bad thing.
Yeah, and I think if I'm thinking about, here I go again, but if I'm thinking about cold opens,
Mm, mm.
this moment would be so cool.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just
Ooh.
thinking of the Collam Daan. So, like, we did get that Age of Legends flashback in the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be something that is just like mind bending. We've got
Mm-hmm.
her doing her research, her thinking, like, I'm gonna dig this hole, this metaphysical hole.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a construction worker, she's a researcher with the one power. And in doing this and her reaching out and grabbing for that power,
Mm-hmm.
she destroys almost this entire university. There's this big floating orb above the university
Yeah.
called the Sharom, and this thing just explodes, and I get major like apocalyptic vibes. This, giant ball like rolling off the side of a building and destroying stuff, and things are blowing up and fire, and it would be so cool to see. It would be so cool to see. I would love that for the Wheel of
Yeah.
Time television show.
And I mean it would make sense to add it too, considering it's in the book. It would be so good to actually have that one in season 2
Mm-hmm.
because like audiences don't really understand this taint on the Dark One. They haven't been exposed to a lot for the Age of Legends as of yet. The Forsaken are still a mystery, and to get like a cold open with that level of backstory, that would be really cool. You're always right about cold opens.
Well, I
I'm like, yes, I want to
first
watch
off,
that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Second off, when I'm thinking about it as a cold open, like, it doesn't, obviously that's where I feel like it would be best suited, like for
Mhm.
Lanfear's big introduction.
Mhm.
But essentially, like, it wouldn't have to be all the way through. Like, when we get the Blood Snow cold open, we get
Mhm.
that piece of it, and then it cuts back to it later in the episode. So it would be really
Yeah.
cool if we get her, like, making plans and saying, this is what we're going to do. She's got her research assistant. I think his name is like Betamon or something of
Yes.
that
Yeah.
nature.
Mhm.
It could be them making plans and having this conversation and what they're going to do about it. And then, like, I don't know, just imagine ending off an episode with massive explosions and people
Mhm.
running and screaming for their lives. I love it.
Yeah. forever queen of chaos. I want it all. No, I'm with you. No, I love that idea. I think that like getting bits of the Age of Legends to kind of understand, especially for a show, like the best way to tell it is to show it. And that one would be just like, and I think, let's see here. Yeah, Hal put in the comment that a cold open about the strike at Shale Ghoul would also be like a really powerful cold open.
It really
I
would.
agree.
It really would.
Yeah. That said, so we have like this collapse, and I mean that's what it becomes known as, is the collapse, because she's like made this attempt and things start to like get all kinds of wonky, it seems like.
Well, let's see here. So at this time that all of this is happening, Age of Legends, she's also I want to say girlfriend of Luz Theron.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels kind of one-sided.
Yeah, it's like in the history section it describes them as being like young lovers. Mm-hmm. So, in their youth, which I mean,
yeah.
That's cool. I don't mind that.
Cool.
However,
so she is very invested in this man who is very well known, very influential, and at some point, Luz Theron kind of breaks off this relationship, and this is a few years before the drilling of the bore. Mm-hmm. And it is said in what I found that he breaks things off with her partially because she loved her association with him more than she loved him as an actual person.
Yep.
And because she saw him as this path to power for herself.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Who can say? We don't know where this history is, from what side this history is being written.
That's a good point.
I'm sure there's a little leeway there.
It's all Luz Theron's PR team.
Right?
History.
Right.
That's really what she's mad about. He like dragged your name through the mud. She's pissed. Just kidding. It's not really what happens. Because I mean, he does end up going on to another woman who he marries and he loves, and she keeps trying to get him back, and it never works out for her. Yeah. She's had probably centuries. Like if they were young together, and like she's still holding this torch for him while they're alive, centuries. They're alive for centuries. I
can't even imagine like thinking about my first boyfriend like in high school and being like, oh, like the one that got away.
Right.
Like,
right?
No.
I can barely remember his name.
He also wasn't Luz Theron, so I don't know. He didn't wear the ring of Tamerlane, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, maybe that kind of like keeps it thrown in her face too, possibly. Right. The other thing, I think she's probably a little like, I feel like this has to at least ruffle her feathers. Luz Theron's wife has the 3 names. Like Luz Theron Telamon has his 3 names, and so does his wife. But Lanfear doesn't. Nope. She never like hits that mark that gets her that 3rd name. And I wrote in my notes, why? Like, what happened that she just didn't achieve that? And I think I may have like answered my question earlier. Like, she's just too obsessed with Luz Theron. She spent too much time thinking about a dumb boy instead of funneling her energies into her taking care of herself. Take care of yourself first. Leave that boy behind.
Do your research. Don't be chasing after Luz Theron.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, what she could have accomplished if she just would have, like, focused in on it. She is thirsty for knowledge, like puts so much into it. She creates a metaphysical bore that like lets the Dark One tap the world.
Oopsie.
That's how much she wants it.
Yeah. So let's see here. Lews Therin marries Ileana Morella Dalasar about 50 years before the War of the Shadow. And one of my favorite things that I've learned in this past week, I hate this so much. I hate this. Lanfear tried to disrupt their wedding.
What?
So,
No.
out of things that I don't want to see, please don't make that a cold open. Or maybe do. I don't know. Like, it's so unhinged and it's
no.
so embarrassing. So embarrassing. I object. Yes, she's the one where they're like, is everyone in accordance to this wedding? Any objections? I object. Yeah, like that is just unhinged behavior. And I'm sorry, Lanfear, but I had to say it.
Yeah, let's just pretend that didn't happen. Can you just like leave that as one of those things that just never makes it into the TV show?
It was in the Big White Book. So
Was it?
yeah, maybe that was just Robert Jordan like throwing in something in after the fact. Like, how do we let's make it even more unhinged?
Ridiculous. Yeah, over the top. Of course she did this. Like, God, what a driven woman.
She is. You know, that's one positive about her though. She is really shameless. Like she does not care. And that is an interesting quality for a villain. Like someone that is just like, I don't care how I look to anyone. This is what I'm doing. I don't care. It's fun, I guess. Without an ounce of shame. Shameless.
No, I think that's a really good point because they're in the wiki reading, and I think on a couple other things that I read, each one of them made mention of the fact that Lanfear is only loyal to herself. Like she's totally willing to play both sides against each other and like see what shakes out, you know? And like
Yeah.
I think you can only do that if you are like absolutely shameless. Just don't care.
Yeah, and I would assume too that her association with the Dark One, with the side of the shadow, is again, it's just a power play. It's not like she's really like, oh, like I love the Dark One. This is my new thing. It's like, no, there was an opportunity there and she took it because it was best for her. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It wasn't
I agree. I agree completely. Because I think there was one of the things that I had glanced over while I was reading where like she's seen being like, I am a servant of the Dark One and blah, blah, blah. But like just sounding more defiant than humble, like a servant should be, you know? The fervor that the others have, the level. That's another thing is like after she makes her switch from researcher to Forsaken, she never becomes like a field she's never like on the field of battle, but she's still high in the hierarchy. And it said she's known for evil deeds and messing with people in their dreams. But I didn't really find anything that was like an example of her evil deeds. And I feel like we have those with so many others that I was like, so what did she do?
So
did you find anything?
There was one thing that I found in the Big White Book, and this is pre-history, like not Third Age. So I feel confident we can talk about it in the non-spoiler section.
Okay, cool.
During the War of the Shadow, we have some of the Forsaken kind of like ruling and governing over territories. I know that Semirog had one. She did some really messed up stuff. But Lanfear, this area that she was in control of, was suffering from like really high rates of suicide because she was using dreams to create chaos. And she was turning people against authority and was causing massive riots during the War of the Shadow as well. So, like, influencing people via their dreams that way.
Okay.
But there's not like a page in a book where I can point to it and say, here, it's canon, like, this is what happened, this is what she did. This is more of like sprinkled in the backstory of Lanfear and not something that we really get to see. We can only make assumptions about it.
But yeah, like her swearing her soul to the Dark One, she also comes out and announces that in the Hall of Servants. And I'm confused. I'm confused because I feel as though when we were reading on Ishamael, he was supposedly like the first Forsaken, but now Lanfears is saying that she's the first Forsaken. Am I just remembering it wrong?
Maybe she's maybe she's saying that since she drilled a hole into the boar. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's
dibs.
No, I think I think there's a little bit of unclear, like it's not so clear within the series which one. I know that Ishamael is arguably the first, and like it's not really so cut and dry because all of these terrible things that were happening at the time, it was really chaotic, and who knows, maybe she could say like, my first thought to drill into the boar, like that makes me the first, like I was the first one that, I don't know, created chaos like that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Ishamael was such an intellectual as well. Maybe he didn't come out and say like, I am a Forsaken. You know what I mean? Maybe he was like, I'm exploring my opportunity with this great new company. And Lanfear was like, she was a headhunter and she just like chose herself. Hired.
Me. I choose me above everyone. Yes. I don't mind that attitude. Not really. Like, there are aspects to it that I don't mind too much.
Yeah.
I mean, where it takes her is not good. You choose yourself so that you can take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of people around you. That I get, totally. But Lanfear is like just me, and more me.
Yes.
So.
And she does quite a bit of stalking of Lews Therin.
Oh my gosh.
She's said to study him like a hunter studying its prey. And that's pretty much like what her character amounts to as far as I'm concerned. Like, and
Truth.
We've said it before, like we don't really need to talk about it anymore, but it feels a little bit one-dimensional.
It does. Yeah. And it's just so drawn out. It does not fall authentic with me. It just feels, I don't know, it feels like an underestimation of the people around her. And that's another thing that is like said about Lanfear in general, is like her level of overconfidence is something that's commented on by the other Forsaken. Apparently they're like, oh, she's full of herself and she's not as good as she thinks she is at doing the things that she does.
Yeah. Something else that I found that I thought was kind of interesting is that when she declares herself for the Dark One, like, he is my new master, in the Hall of the Servants, Lews Therin was actually present when that happened, but she doesn't know it. And I think, again, looking at things like what the TV show could do, even if it's not Lanfear, even if we just have certain Forsaken, the ones that they will use, I would love to see like what their announcements look like, you know, like I'm swearing myself to the Dark One. That's it. It would be really interesting to see what that looks like, because in my head I don't always see it as a announcement in front of a crowd and more just like a personal choice.
Yeah, same. And I mean, thinking about it, if you stand up in the Hall of Servants and declare that you are now an ally of the enemy of the vast majority of the people in that room, how do you get out of there unscathed? How did that happen? They're like, okay, cool, see you later, have fun. No one was like, bar the exits. Right? Stop her from channeling. That right? How? Ishamael did the same thing. So for me, I feel more like, do it like the apparition type thing that happens in the book series with the Valon viewing.
She gives her announcement, then throws a smoke bomb and disappears like a magician.
I mean, that makes about as much sense as her getting out of there in the first place.
I'm seeing lots of jazz hands.
Sparkly gloves included.
Oh, she would definitely wear that.
Anything to distractify and enhance. I'm
trying to make this make sense, Tracy. I'm trying desperately. Is it possible?
Let me know what you find.
Yeah, is it possible that they don't actually say like, hey, I'm joining the side of the Dark One? Or is it more like, hey, I'm joining the side of this other entity? Because if you call it the Dark One and the side of the Shadow, like, I mean, come on. But if it was more mysterious than that, if it was more like I don't even know how you would say it, but
that's actually what I'm trying to think of too, is like, what kind of wording would you use to be like, this is no longer where my allegiance lies. I have chosen a different path. It's going to be against all of you now. Bye.
Right.
What?
Or
okay, no. Every time I think
I like
my
smoke bomb idea.
It's the best one. It's the best one. And she just
gateways out.
Yeah.
Like
before anybody thinks to shield her.
The cheesiest magic act ever. I love it. New headcanon.
Felix does suggest that everyone is probably shocked and thinks maybe she's just joking. But I mean, would you risk that?
They're like, oh, maybe that Mirren, she's quite the comedian. When she's not doing her research, she does open mic night at the Collam Daan.
She's head of the improv group.
Yeah.
Advisor.
Her and Masana.
I mean, yeah. What I'm trying to like think of is like, maybe they just didn't know what it would mean for her to do that, for her to make that choice. Maybe they were like, I guess we'll see what happens from here. You have freedom of choice and movement. Bye. We have things to address with this whole collapse thing.
And things are so research based at this point. Like when we're talking about a university, it's likely too that, you know, I'm trying to think of like when you get a lot of intellectuals in a room and, you know, you're trying to discuss something, people are going to have different theories of what this is and what this means. And I'm just assuming everyone's got their heads together and they're trying to figure out, what is the deal with the research on the board? Like, what is this other power source? Is it good? Is it bad? And is this explosion that just happened? Is it just like an oopsie? Like, is it like when things went down in Chernobyl and people are just kind of like, whoa, like that's a weird accident. And they're
Mm-hmm.
still kind of investigating and trying to figure things out. And then she says, hey, look, this power source, whatever, like I'm aligning myself with it. And whatever created it, I'm on that side. Like not like the
Mm-hmm.
dark one, but the creator of this other power source. That's
Mm-hmm.
where that's where I'm going. That's my new deal.
That actually makes sense. Perhaps there just isn't like a definition and realization of what they're facing.
Yeah, Felix said they were not investigating on Chernobyl, they were covering it up. You need to go listen to the episode of The Age of Legends that Tracy and I were on for the Dusty Wheel, and we actually brought that up. So, if there is, she's complicit in this, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
things go
Mm.
boom and she's like, oh, I don't know how that happened. Like, it is.
It was Bedamon's fault. Blame
Yeah,
Bedamon.
points the finger at Piedmont. It was him. No, but you
Blame
can,
Bedamon. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
you
Go
can
ahead.
always kind of like hand wave it and be like, oh, it was an accident. This is
Mm-hmm.
research. It wasn't meant
Mm-hmm.
to happen, which I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it was meant to happen. But
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that if she knew, or even if she did know that it was like, oh yeah, like this other entity, this other source of power, it is evil. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to say that. She can just be like, oh, it's, this other
It's
great
different.
new and improved power source.
Yeah. Because
Ta-da.
I mean,
There could be a cover up.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean things that could be what slows things down maybe from descending into chaos so rapidly that like the people at the top of the chaos machine like slip through the fingers of the people that could have potentially stopped them.
Mm-hmm.
Like wording things the right way is an Aes Sedai trick apparently for the ages.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting, interesting, interesting. That is what makes the most sense. I mean, besides the smoke bomb.
Before the smoke bomb and the jazz hands.
But
Should
only
we
slightly.
Yeah, should we move to spoilers before we go
Yeah.
any
I'm
further?
I am good with that. I think we've covered up like as much as Oh, I guess it just since non-spoilers and everything, Lanfear still is one of the Forsaken that gets caught up when Luce there and Telamon and his chosen companions all go and
Seal
lock
things
everybody
up.
up. Yeah, so she is left in a dreamless sleep for 3,000 years. And
Robert Jordan really pulling on like the Brothers Grimm myth. She's like Snow White or Sleeping Beauty, like just really cozy, comfortable sleep for a really long time, and she doesn't age a bit. So,
nope. And it doesn't matter if she did anyway, because, the one power. So,
mm-hmm.
option. But we can save that part for the spoilers, too. So, I
All
just wanted to
right.
mention that she got locked away with everybody else before we jump into, like, what happens in the series with her.
Okay. So for the spoiler section, is there anywhere that you would like to start?
The first thing that I had in my notes just was like, how, like, she's another character who gets, like, a whole long list of names. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
we get her introduced in the books under the name of Celine, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's how we first meet her, and that's like where the quote comes from the beginning and what we always make fun of.
She has so many disguises and names, I think more than anyone. So she's Celine. She's also disguised as Elsa Grinwell.
Yep, in the tower, and she
She's
like
disguised as Sylvie at one
mhm
point.
mhm
Well, she's also Kylie
Yep.
and Sindane,
Mm-hmm.
and then the wolves call her Moonhunter.
Moonhunter.
And she
Yeah.
also calls herself Daughter of the Night. So,
Right. Yeah. Like, and she gave herself her name. Like, she's the only
yeah.
one of the Forsaken that did that. And she's so proud of it. Good for you, Lanfear. Um,
Yeah.
that was just like the first thing that I put down. It's another one of those places where like one person is like so many different characters, so many different appearances. Like even Celine when like as Celine when she shows up to Rand, when he first sees her, he's like she's probably about Nynaeve's age. And then like a couple days later, she's like aged down where he thinks that he's got to be close to her age and he was wrong before. And I'm just like, what's happening?
That is some shady catfishing going on from this woman.
Right. And I
I
mean, like, she gets that moment where she does borrow Rand's shirt, and we all know why. But, like, there's this moment where Rand turns around and he's like, the shirt is molded to her differently. And I'm like, this is what you use the one power for? This is. This is how you get someone's attention? Try to change their mind about things? All right. But I mean, that's what it is. Is like that's what she uses as her main distraction tactic. It is almost always what she looks like. She leans on the fact that she is apparently just the most gorgeous woman we can ever possibly imagine, and she turns everybody stupid. Like,
Isn't it interesting how, I mean, this is just kind of a tangent here, but in the early 90s, the body shape that was considered most attractive is much different than what it is
mm,
today. Like in the early 90s, the epitome of beauty was like the very slender,
mm-hmm,
tall model
mm-hmm,
type, like Kate Moss or Claudia
yeah,
Schiffer. Now, what is considered, I think, for some people more popular is like very curvy women, like very small waist,
mm-hmm,
but a little chonky elsewhere, if you know what I mean.
mm-hmm,
And I think it's interesting because people have been fan casting Lanfear since the 90s. Like, who could play this part? Who could be
mm-hmm,
this woman? And I am very, very curious to see who they come up with. I don't think it's anyone that we've seen yet. I don't think
mm-hmm,
anyone has a clue who
mm-hmm,
Lanfear is. I
yep,
don't think that it is even going to be anyone super well known.
mm-hmm. I agree.
And I'm
I agree.
excited about that. I
Yeah.
did have a question for you and maybe for chat
Mm,
too. So,
excited.
when you think about being introduced to Lanfear in the television show,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to recognize her or do you want it to be a mystery where, like, every new person that pops up, you're like, is it her? Is it her? Because I feel like if they give her the trademark Celine look, like the
Mm-hmm.
white dress, silver belt,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to be like, that Leonardo DiCaprio gif where he's pointing, like, there she is. That's her. Found her. Spotted. Like, would you want some mystery to it, or do you want it to be like, oh, there she is?
Okay, well, if we stick with the whole she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen thing that Jordan has in the books, I think it would be potentially difficult to pick her out if she comes in as a like mystery type character. And I say potentially because it's a really beautiful cast already, and I've seen some of the people that are coming in for future cast members, and they aren't
Mm-hmm.
getting any less attractive. So, I feel like that could be like almost an immediate telltale if there's like this woman who shows up and she's just fucking stunning, you know, and you're like, oh my god, I've never seen someone so beautiful. And at the same time, I mean, like, we all have different ideas of beauty. So I don't really know. That said,
I love the combination of answers in chat because I agree with both of them
hmm,
wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Hal
Yeah.
says scatter her in during the season, then reveal her during the strike cold open.
Mm.
That would be very cool if she's just
Mm-hmm.
someone that's kind of, in the background somewhere, and then we get that
See,
flashback and you're like, oh, mind
that's
blown.
what
That's
Jordan
her.
should have done. That's what he
Right.
should have done. He should. I mean, that's the thing is like Lanfear leans so much on her look, and even when she's put in Sindane, like she's put in that new body and she's Sindane, she goes into Laranriode and dreams herself looking like she used to look. Like that is how attached to her identity, like her looks are for her. And so if Jordan would have done something where she's just like a normal girl. Normal girl, beautiful, but not like stupefyingly so, because I mean it's so hard to believe in some ways. But then you could do what he seems to be trying to write her for, is like just dropping her in every once in a while. Like she's Celine first because she doesn't want to show up as Lanfear, but she's still this like crazy good looking human being. Like, don't make
Yeah.
yourself look like yourself. Give us a little mystery to it. But her being who she was in the books, it was like, well, she's got to be someone.
Felix says, no more mysteries, please. I had enough during season 1. Fair. Fair. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't want a. Uh, this is giving me the same vibes as Rings of Power. I do not want to go through a whole season 2 of Who's Sauron with Lanfear. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's necessary. Like, I think it would actually be more direct and probably more likely to retain the audience if you give us characters like dig our teeth into rather than like flitting them in and out and we don't really get an attachment to them of any kind until like the end. Like we could be
Ima-
using them to draw people's emotions in a different way.
Imagine a entrance for Lanfear, and instead of this desperate woman trying to catfish a young man,
Mhm.
we get this very, very powerful scientist where we see her like trying to channel, and it is unlike anything that we've seen so far,
Ooh,
where
yeah.
we've just got this incredibly powerful woman who is determined and curious and interested. And I'm just seeing like full CGI, like something even way more intense than what we got at the finale of episode 8, where Nynaeve and the women and Egwene are channeling.
Mhm.
Something where you're just like, holy shit, we have not seen channeling on that level yet in this show, and we get it from this woman. I feel like that would be much more powerful than
Mhm.
like, hey, big boy, like, come on. But that's just me. Did I lose you, Tracy, or are you
No,
laughing?
no. Just the whole hey big boy thing, I couldn't help it. Lost it.
Yes.
You
No,
know? Like
she's so Jessica
save
Rabbit.
me.
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Helpless. Damsel in distress. Like
I think there's ways that you can make Lanfear incredibly interesting because she is an
mhm.
interesting character, but
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be chasing Rand around. Like, it's kind of desperate and pathetic, and I don't
Mhm.
know.
Can
Justice
you
for Lanfear.
I mean, seriously, can you imagine if she would have like approached him in a way that like brought about what she knows, like her knowledge, as opposed to her beauty? How much more impactful that might have been on his decisions instead of him just being like, no, no, she's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. I can barely think, but I need to still stand true to myself. Like, I don't I
Yeah,
feel like her brains could have like beat out his logic. He's a kid. He's a kid. She's a forsaken.
right. And that's like two, we don't need her to be incredibly endearing to Rand. Like, she doesn't need to be
Right?
chasing him in this sexual way. Like, it can be her helping him, like with the portal stones or with Asmodean. You know what I mean? Like, she does
Yeah.
things that can really endear herself to him, where he
Mm-hmm.
could think, like, yeah, like she's really not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that she's portrayed in the books, it just, like you get a huge red flag from it where you're like, no, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot trust her. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's just no good. Stay away from
Yeah.
her, Rand. Stay away. But if they had her a little bit more approachable and not like this seductress type,
Well,
I mean, it,
seductress crossed with like crazy ex-girlfriend. Like that's
right.
the other thing that pushes Rand so hard away is when she starts to like reveal herself and be like, "You were mine, you will always be mine, and any other woman who tries to touch you, I will rip her apart." That is not what guys want to hear. Even if that is your truth, you may want to keep it to yourself. Like,
Hal said, I love this, a cross between Jessica Rabbit, Marie Curie, and Bellatrix Lestrange. It's so much more fleshed out, and I love that. I love that.
yeah, like just give her more than just this whole I'm beautiful, follow me. I mean, we see what happens like when she goes after Avienda and Egwene. This is the moment. This is the only moment that I can think of where she does something that's like you are showing us the lengths you will go to because of your anger, I guess, your displeasure that Rand has had sex with Avienda, but she like rips what's his face's skin off of his body, Kadir, like, and then she drags his skin behind her as she starts to approach Rand and this crowd of people. Like that's it. That's the only thing I can think of where she's like forsaken me.
Terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, blew up his skin like a balloon. Like she hurts
Yeah.
Egwene, she hurts Avienda. It takes
So
Moraine like tackling her through at the door frame to
I
take
cannot
her
wait.
out.
I cannot wait to see Rosamund Pike just blue 42, like
Right?
rugby tackle this woman through the door frame. Like,
I love that. Blue for two.
she's got the shoulder pads, so.
Oh my god. Yeah, she does. I love that. I feel like there are so many really amazing opportunities for Rosamund Pike in the series, and I'm excited to see her pull those things off.
Before we got to the spoilers, you were talking about things like, was Lanfear even that great until Riod, right?
Right.
That was one of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because in looking up details about Lanfear, it's like she was this assassin of Riod, like just the best that ever lived. And
Was
I
she?
don't, I don't know, was she?
I don't, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. I feel like this is one of those sections where, like, the statement of her being overconfident is probably accurate. Like, Gideon definitely is like, no, I think I'm better than you. I'm not gonna, like, flaunt it.
Mogideon wouldn't flaunt it because that's not her style.
Nope,
Like, she
not at
would
all.
not show it off. She
Mm-mm.
doesn't want to be seen as a threat. She doesn't want to be
Nope.
seen as a target.
She doesn't really
So,
want to be seen at all. Pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain. Like,
yeah.
that's Gideon. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I appreciate that about her, like, as a Forsaken. Like, to me, she's a much more convincing and dangerous Forsaken. Like, Lanfear is always trying to get Rand to, like, go to the dark side, I guess. But it's
Yeah.
not even that. Like, she wants him so they can get the Choden Call and use it and overthrow the Dark One and maybe even the Creator. They're like, how much of a megalomaniac are you? That's your plan. That's your plan. It's just wild to me. And I mean, I guess there has to be at least one out there like that. Like one Forsaken that's not just like there for the glorification of the Dark One. They're there for just solely themselves, and that's Lanfear, I guess.
I mean, I do like
Oh.
that about her. Like, I think that makes her interesting in a way. Hal said Moggy was better. This is why I have issues with the recent Lanfear reveal.
Are we talking about that Lanfear is still alive?
Yeah, so
Because I
first
want to
off,
talk about that.
uh, as you can tell from my very serious voice, I just don't know how I feel about this. If I were a big Lanfear fan, I would think it's kind of cool. Like your favorite character lives on, and that's fun, I guess. But this is coming from the Brandon Sanderson reveal that at the end of the books, when Perrin breaks Lanfear's neck and he, cuts through her compulsion, she was tricking him. That's not really what happened, and she is very much alive somewhere in the world. Hopefully, I summed that up as good as possible.
I watched a little bit of the interview that the Dusty Whale did with Brandon Sanderson, and they talked about this, and like Brandon Sanderson was like, the world is her oyster now, and I'm like, how? Okay, so people think that she's dead, but if she like shows up as like this power figure, which is all she wants, isn't she gonna eventually give herself away? Like, what's the point of keeping her alive?
I wish I had an answer to that, Tracy. I wish.
Thanks.
I wish.
Do you know
No,
what's
I don't.
even worse about this, in my opinion? This isn't Jordan's decision. This is Brandon Sanderson's decision, and he took it to Team Jordan, and they were like, yeah, that sounds great. So it's canon. Like, it's Wheel of Time canon. And I hate that. I hate that. I think that's even worse somehow. Like, you pushed this off. You made Lanfear, who had become a useless character, survive? What for? Okay, now I might be done for a minute.
So, I'm trying to think of like what it adds to the story, and I'm not coming up with much, you know? Like, if she obviously can't recognize Rand anymore, she might recognize Moradin, so there's
Mm.
that. That could be interesting, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that she would be able to have her full channeling capabilities anymore after her cozy little time in Fintown. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't see her as a big threat because, I mean, we have channelers that are at this point more have a higher potential have a higher potential than Nynaeve even. So
Mm-hmm.
like she's not the strongest anymore at
Mm-hmm.
all. Like
Mm-hmm.
she can't be
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
unless I don't know. I don't know unless somehow what happened with the fin like didn't affect her as much as it did Moraine.
She had actually made a wish of the Finn to be more powerful than the Aes Sedai, not realizing that she already was more powerful than all the Aes Sedai out there. And so like her power was diminished, but only to Aes Sedai, I think, which is why Olivia, who had never been an Aes Sedai, was able to like defeat her when they like combated each other at the cleansing. But she's not as strong as she was, and that is for sure.
I'm sure she could get a hold of some Terangrial and figure something out.
Mm-hmm. But
But I just don't know exactly like what her plan is because
mm-hmm.
she can't really out herself, and
Mm-mm.
that seems to be like her whole
Yes.
characteristic of being like me, look at
Yes.
me,
Look at
I'm
me.
great, I want power, I want this, I want that. So unless it's
Mm-hmm.
just her taking over some town and instating herself as like God Emperor, then
Right?
I don't know.
And I mean, where is she gonna go? Where's she gonna go? Like,
Shara. I
that's
don't
exactly
know.
what I was thinking. Oh my god. I was like, she can go to Shara. Like, that might go over well there. I don't know. But like, in the Westlands, where is she gonna go? Where can she be where like it's not gonna become obvious that she is the person that she is, because she'll do the thing that she has been doing habitually for centuries.
Hal has a really good
Centuries.
idea on where she could go.
Ooh, the Madlands. Felix suggested Shan Chen.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
she could go to Shanchan, but like, I don't see the rulers of Shanchan, Tuan, and her
Yeah.
whole posse. I think, they have enough Damani where if she shows up, it's like, see ya. Like they have armies of channelers. So I don't know what she would really
Yeah.
try and do there unless disguise herself and try and get Tuan to fall in love with her and rule Shan Chan as a
Like, come in
couple.
as an advisor. A couple. I like that even better.
I mean, let's face it, Matt and Tuan, that's
there that's
Matt
that
could do better.
right. That's that relationship you see happening and you go, it's not gonna last. That's not gonna make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah, I
just
think she would just end up collared if she was there.
yeah, very real possibility of that, because again, like if she asked the Finn to adjust her strength, I don't know if that would like still hold after she had been killed. Well, because she asked about Aes Sedai, and they would have like, if they were going to do anything, they would have limited her just to Aes Sedai, but that wouldn't necessarily include Domine.
Mm-hmm.
So if she went to Shan Chen, what are the chances that there would be channelers there that would be stronger than her? You know?
Yeah.
The other thing about it in that interview was when it, like, Sanderson said that something along the lines of how like Perrin believes it, like Perrin believes he actually killed a Forsaken, like he actually believes he's really good at dreamwalking, but Lanfear is still better, and like Lanfear made him believe this, and I'm like, but everyone else at this moment has had a chance to kill a Forsaken. It's totally believable that Perrin could have killed a Forsaken, to him, to everyone around him. Like, you made it believable for a reason. Not so she could survive, but so we could all be like, oh, cool, Lanfear died.
So okay, I found the quote, and this is from Brandon Sanderson.
Ooh.
If the Dark One wins, Lanfear is in trouble, as she's been playing her own game from the start. True.
Mm-hmm.
I'm agreeing. I'm saying true here. That's not the quote.
Mm-hmm.
she she's been a very bad Forsaken, but if the good guys win, they will hunt her down and destroy her or worse. So
Mm-hmm.
the only way she comes out on top is if the good guys win, but she manages to stage her death in the process. So, from what it sounds like to me, the only way she can win is if she survives and stays hidden for the remainder of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, like that's just the ending of Lanfear. Like she doesn't come out of hiding and doesn't really affect anything after that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just changing things so that she survives. It's not really adding anything to the story, and I think that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as satisfying as her dying, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. I agree. It feels like neutering her as a character. Sure, you get to survive, but the thing that you want the most, the thing that has driven you for so, so, so long, you can't have that anymore because you have to stay in hiding because everybody thinks you're dead.
Right? Or if she had some type of, I don't believe this is possible, but if she had some type of character development afterwards where she starts to see things in a different way and gets over Luz Theron, That could be kind of cool, I guess, but I don't know. I don't know where to go with this one.
I don't.
really don't. I really don't.
I think it would have been fine to let her die. I was fine with that. I was not so fine finding out that she survived. Like, I was like, no, why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, as Sindane, did she do anything? Like, she was Moradin's pet because she was, like, attached to him through was it the Corsorva?
Corsuvra.
Yeah.
Hal is killing me in chat. She's dead. Dead, dead, dead. D-E-D, dead. I don't know. The whole Lanfear survived thing, not a big fan of it.
Mm-mm.
But, I mean, since the series is over and there's not another book where it is Lanfear trapezing across the Westlands, I don't know. Like, if it came out, I'd probably read it. If anything came out after the fact, I would read it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't know about that one. It's kind of cool, I guess, but not really my thing. The only thing that I had is what we were talking about earlier before we started recording, where I think Moradin, when he went into the Tower of Genji, I don't think that it was a rescue job. I think it was a hit job.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because that was a question that I had was, why would he kill her instead of bringing her out? Like, he went in to get her. And I always expected, like, rescue, but then he kills her and the Dark One grabs her soul and puts her in a new body. Do you think he was expecting that? Or do you think he was expecting to kill Lanfear and Lanfear's out of the game completely?
He should know better. I mean, he's in a new body, so I don't know. Maybe he just thought that he was Daddy's favorite chosen, and that would be, that. Like, maybe he thought that she just wasn't as important to the Dark One, because let's face it, she really wasn't a great Forsaken. Like, she wasn't really helping the side of the shadow win. I mean, this is going back to that Brandon Sanderson quote. I agree with him. She's not a very effective Forsaken.
Yeah, no.
So maybe he just thought, like, we don't need her. And then, surprise, right? She's back.
But then she continues to be ineffectual.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Like, it's not like she comes back and she's like, you know what? I had all this time to think while I was being tortured. Like, the only thing she seems to be on board with at this point is, like, killing Rand as opposed to trying to convert him. And I think if she still had her choice, she would try that too. She wants to, like, divert her attention away from him to one of the other, to Veer. And I think that's one of the reasons why she starts, like, helping Perrin and whatnot. So, yeah. I mean, she's going back to her same old tricks, even though she doesn't have her other body,
Agreed.
I think we behaved ourselves very well.
I tried my best. I think that she is a fairly interesting character, but I would like to see her get a little bit revamped for
absolutely
2023.
I agree completely. And I really hope that they do that. I really do. Like,
I think they will.
I actually want to be afraid of the Forsaken. I want to be afraid of them. I don't want them to be like this knuckle-headed group of people who can't seem to figure their shit out. Like,
get it together, you knuckleheads. And with that,
yeah.
All right, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.